Welcome to Leadership Talk, the official Waymaker podcast, where we explore how your organization can achieve more by doing less. Okay, welcome to Leadership Talk by Waymaker. I'm your host, Craig Heineman, and I'm joined by Waymaker founder and CEO, Stuart Leo. How are you, Stu?
I'm great, Craig. Welcome to the Waymaker podcast.
Thank you, Stu. So, okay, we used to do a podcast called The Brand Transformation Show, where we talked about brand strategy, brand transformation, but we've wrapped that season up to focus on something new.
Yep.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Stu?
Well, sure. We've given ourselves a brand transformation, haven't we?
Yeah.
Not only were we on audio, we're now audio video.
I know. I've actually got to, scrub up and do my hair and all that sort of stuff now. So.
Did you?
Can you not tell? Oh dear. I'll have to work on that one. Good.
Very, very exciting news. We, 6-9 months ago, we went dark, we went quiet, along with
the rest of the world.
The rest of the world.
Yeah.
And as we were using that time to reimagine a new vision, new strategies, we started to explore what things could look like if we executed in a new way. And what has happened is we've created a platform called Waymaker.
Waymaker. So what's Waymaker in a nutshell?
Well, good question. That's why we're here. Well, the big idea is that Waymaker helps leaders start up, scale up, smarten up by doing less to achieve more. There's our big contradiction. Yeah. And at its essence, it's two things. One, it's a management framework, a way to make sense of your business or your organization around you. And most importantly, what are the most valuable steps that I could take to grow it? Because we think most people are interested in improving and growing their organization. Mm-hmm. Secondly, that management framework is supported by a technology platform at waymaker.io. That is a SaaS platform, software as service, that uses really smart algorithms and predictive analytics to bring your business to life, your organization to life on the Waymaker platform using the Waymaker Way. So that platform helps you manage according to the Waymaker Way, and it uses really powerful tools to very quickly show you, that's where we need to improve. That's if we should tweak that on our business model. Oh, actually, the next activity we should do in sales is this. And so the platform itself, two things, a way of managing your business, a way to make your business grow, or a way to make your way forward in the business, and two, the technology, because that's the tool to go with it. And you'll hear me talk a lot about skills and systems, and what we have are two things, a new skill you'll learn and a system to use it. And the net is you grow your business faster.
Awesome. So how do we get here, Stu? Like, how do we end up at Waymaker?
That's a good question.
Take me on a journey.
Well, I should also say that Waymaker is for two groups of people. It's and this will make sense as I tell the story, because the story, the two groups of people are business users, business leaders and their teams, and two, they're coaches and advisors. So you can use the platform on your own, not a problem, or you can use the platform with a coach or an advisor.
Great.
The story of Waymaker really is a story of two airports, and
sounds like Charles Dickens. Yes.
Hopefully not as long as Charles Dickens. This should only be about a 25-minute podcast.
Okay, good.
And I hope at the end of the podcast you're going, I can see a bit of me in that. Yeah, I get that. And if you do, we'll jump on to Waymaker at waymaker.io and look at the framework. Look at what we do. Jump onto the software and have a free trial if you like. But hopefully out of today, you'll get a bit of a sense of the why. And as I said, the story is actually a story of two airports. The first airport is Sydney Airport here in Australia, circa 2010. So let's date this. We're in
set the scene. Okay.
Let's set the scene. We're in 2021. So
2010.
2010, about a decade ago. And I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, obviously, but I was, a much younger, skinnier, healthier, better looking guy. You wouldn't think that's possible. But hey, wonders never cease. And I'm working in a corporation, and I love it, by the way. I love that corporation. It was a great place to work. But I think, like many people, you hit certain points, and I'm walking through Sydney Airport, 2010. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I've just done one of those big days an exec does. I think I started my day in Townsville, stopped off in Brisbane, met people in Sydney, and I'm now in Sydney Airport, 11 o'clock at night. I don't know if I'd missed my flight, don't know if I'd landed for my flight. All I can remember is that it's been just 16, 17 hours of mayhem, and I'm walking through the airport, and there's not, it's that time of night where I think we must have been the last flight. So I must have been on my way to the last flight or leaving or something. And I see the dude with the cleaner that you drive the machine around the airport.
Yeah, sure.
And it cleans the airport. And I'm dragging my little briefcase and I'm walking along, and I see that guy, and I look at that guy and I'm like, I think I want your life.
Looks like an easier job right now. Yeah. Yes.
I think you had a better careers counsellor than I did. On the outside, everything looked great. High paying, young executive, working in a great corporation, flying around the country, working on exciting projects. But in reality, what's behind that is frustrations and mayhem and dysfunction and politics and the life of that traditional corporate world. And what's behind that is a family at home, a wife, young baby probably at that stage. And where am I? I'm walking through some airport at some stupid hour of the night, eating badly, sleeping badly, running around.
So you're having a quarter life crisis.
I'm having a quarter.
A little bit over. A third life crisis. let's say this body makes it to 120.
Right. And I look at this going, there must be a better way. And I knew there was a better way. I knew that big organisations come with politics and dysfunction, and you got to play the game and you got to get stuff done. But I got to say, I stopped, and I can still remember that moment as I close my eyes, and I can see that guy, and I'm like, dude, I want your job. I think you have a great life. You get to the end of the day and something's clean. You've achieved something. It's purposeful. It's peaceful. It's quiet. There's nobody around. There's all these things that suddenly driving a cleaning machine at 11 o'clock at night suddenly was a wonderful job to aspire to, and some corporate executive getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, in a great career, just looks like meaningless waste of time. And so that was a crystallizing moment. And I thought, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And that triggered a process to go, I think I'm going to try something new. I'm going to go and be a consultant. I'm going to go and embark on my consulting journey and help other people, other business leaders, build great brands and design great strategies and achieve great outcomes. Yeah. And that was a catalyzing moment. It was at that moment that I went, I'm not going to be the cleaner guy, as much as that's a great job and I think that's wonderful, but I'm going to use my skills and I'm going to go help people because I think helping people is so much better than corporate politics. And
of course, working for yourself has none of the headaches that working for a corporation.
In that moment,
it seemed like a better option
of naive idealism.
Right.
Of course, you think that working for yourself has none of those issues, which is why it's the story of two airports.
Great.
So that's airport number one. Crystallizing life moment. Airport number two is actually Los Angeles Airport. At a probably similar time of night, but about 6 or 7 years later.
Right. So
let's fast forward. Let's go back 4 or 5 years from now and go forward 6 or 7 years from then. Circa 2016-ish. It could have been 15, could have been 16, I don't know. And I'm walking through Los Angeles Airport after attending a technology conference, and I'm 6 or 7 years into a consulting business, which I love. It's and I have the same moment because it's hectic, it's frantic. We're doing lots of different stuff. We're making lots of money. We're probably multiple seven figures. There's millions of dollars running through the business. Where it's almost one of those moments in life where the same kind of scene is thrust at you. 11 o'clock at night, off a plane from San Francisco or wherever it was, and I'm walking to the flight. I'm trying to get to that gate, and it would have been late at night, one of the last flights out, I'm assuming. And I see this, it's not the same dude, but it's the same dude on a similar machine. And I'm like, I'm back there. What? I'm back there. But hang on a minute. I've just spent the last 6 or 7 years building this multi-million-dollar business, and why am I again frantic, chasing a tail, all those same issues, for better or for worse, had come back and crystallized again in that moment. And it was like life picked up a big, fat, wet fish and just slapped me across the face and went, what is going on? And I had to have one of those really humbling moments of going, okay, the one constant here is me. That's a very humbling moment where you go, I can complain about corporate politics, and I can complain about business partners and business programs and good clients and bad clients. But you know what? Perhaps there's some things I'm doing that have led me back to the same point where I'm happy to throw in a multi-million-dollar business and become a driver of a cleaning machine, which still sounds wonderful. And by the way, I'm not dissing that job at all. Don't hear that in this journey. But there's something about the purposefulness, the clarity of it, the simplicity of it, the rhythm of it, that actually speaks to our humanity and says, well, hang on a minute, how can you build a wonderful life through business? And actually when you start to peel the layers back, most of us are actually in business or in organisations leading them because deep down we went, this is a good business, I could make some money and build a better life. Or this is a good organisation, we can solve a community's problem and create a great outcome. We generally have, certainly from the hundreds of business owners and leaders I've sat down and talked with over the years, it's rare that you're just in it for the money. Every now and then you find those people and you tend to sort of shake their hands and move on because when you're just in it for the money, there's something a bit cold about that. And most business people really are, and coaches and consultants are in it because they want to do something of value. And so I
keep
had those
going back to that Guy Kawasaki quote: "Make meaning, and you'll make money." Most people are,
Well, Craig,
Yes.
You were the gentleman that probably around that time in 2010 that I think it was The Art of the Start, was it? Guy
The
Kawasaki?
Art of the Start. Yep.
That's right.
Great book.
Great book. And I think you gave that to me for my birthday, didn't you? Or something. I can't remember. And I think that was a bit of a catalyst at that time to go and make the same mistake again.
He didn't read it.
He didn't read it. But what you were going to say was in the book, The Art of the Start, Guy Kawasaki has a great statement, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What is
Make
it?
meaning. Make meaning and you'll make money.
Yeah. But put the meaning before the money.
Yeah, that's right.
And so these two moments were critical. And why were they critical? Because back in 2015, 16, I'm in a consulting business. We're dealing with lots of clients. We're doing lots of different things. But deep down, myself and others in the business, but particularly myself, I started to ask the question, okay, what is it when we do things really, really well? Because we were doing some things really well, some things okay, and I'd have to say some things not very well. And we were working with clients who were doing some things really well, some things okay, and some things not very well. And so what was it? What were the things that helped you do things really well? And there were some clients that you could look at and we'd go, man, yeah, they're doing things really well. Why did they do it really well? There was different research we came across. And over the course of a few years, I started to put together pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, and what I was really doing was starting to build sense of the world around me. Now, many other people have gone on the same journey. That's great. There's no one right answer. I think there are just better answers, and I think we've got a different and a better answer here. And what?
I was going to say, so you got all these jigsaw puzzle pieces. You started to put them together. What did you discover?
Well, we discovered that the people who achieved more did less. And that the path to achieving more was doing less. And somehow achieving more, whether it was more in business or more in life, they were often the same thing, happened because you did less. And by less, it was less things. You had less things on your to-do list. You had less issues to solve. Didn't mean you didn't work as hard, but you did less. And
right.
And so this big idea of how do you achieve more by doing less started to unfold in front of us. And as we started to practice that with clients and with ourselves, we had interesting and remarkable results. And it was this discipline of choosing to do less that actually led to achieving more. And so it's a great paradox. And so we started to put pieces of the puzzle together. And that was the big answer.
And so that was like 5 years ago, right? You're talking about revelation number 2 or, and so, that was 5 years ago. So you're starting to put these pieces of the puzzle together, and sort of in the last 6 to 9 months have gone, okay, where, COVID's shifted the way that the world thinks, the way that the world does things. This seems like a good time. As good a time as any to, change things up again.
Yeah.
So the last 5 years or so of your previous business, consulting business has kind of led to where you are now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There were certain things we were doing that we went, that sucks. Let's get out of that business. Let's get out of that. That's not healthy. And then there were other bits we went, let's innovate and try things. And that was where we said to some clients, hey, let's help you. Let's let's put in some frameworks that might help you achieve more by doing less. And so the last 4 or 5 years were really R&D, testing. We had some really friendly clients that knew that we had deep relationships with, that knew we were going to test stuff on them. Well, at least the right people knew. Not everybody knew. And so we put together this framework that we've come to call the Waymaker Way, that is built on a framework that you'll see on our website called the Experience Curve, that actually helps you practice these principles, because there's sitting behind this big idea of, well, how do you achieve more by doing less? There were 8 principles. And
do I have to pay for those, or are you going to give those to me?
No, I will give those to you for free.
Oh, yes.
And I guess that's what this podcast is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
This podcast is all about kind of getting behind the scenes, talking about the frameworks, the tools, how to use them. Over time, we'll talk to customers and other coaches and bring some of these ideas to the table. So that's why we'd like you to keep listening to the podcast. And so these 8 principles sit behind, they frame the worldview of this framework. And they're, for me, they're like herbs and spices. One of my first jobs as a kid was working.
Did you?
I did.
KFC.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. That was me.
I was McDonald's.
Yeah. See, it's great training.
It's a rite of passage.
And in the back there were these silver packets at KFC, and those silver packets were labelled the Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices. And I was a cook. I was a chef at the tender age of 16, and chef. And you would take that silver packet once you'd rolled the chicken in the flour mix and was stacking it on the grates to go in the deep fries. In the flour mix would go the Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices, but it was a tiny packet. It was actually quite small. But if you didn't add the Colonel's secret 11 herbs and spices, it was
just chicken.
It was just chicken wrapped in flour and deep fried. It was pretty normal. Yeah. But the quantities, it was like, one tiny spice to one big handful of flour. Somehow that one tiny spice had a compounding effect on that flour. You get the point? That's the point I'm kind of trying to make. Right. These 8 principles are kind of like compounding herbs and spices sitting inside your organization.
Great.
And they're not rocket science, but they are a science. And so these 8 principles, I'll say them to you and you'll go, oh, I sort of knew that. But the Experience Curve, the Waymaker Way, actually puts these principles into action and forces you to do them. And
okay.
So should we talk about those principles?
Yeah, let's go through the 8 principles
real fast.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
Principles for growth.
Principles. These are the Waymaker principles for growth. They're like the compounding effects. The first one is the ability to develop situation awareness. One of the things that's happened during COVID is that it's like somebody pulled the time lever. And we're fast forward in time, like decades, in terms of how quickly certain trends have erupted on us. Where if you're not digital today, you're not on the playing field. If you if you are looking at the world today to what it was just 2 years ago, it's moved ahead in trends and geopolitical sort of structures, light years. We've all experienced that. And so situation awareness, so awareness is the first principle. The capacity to practice and develop situation awareness. It's the capacity to look around you really quickly and go, we know what's going on around us and we know what's going on inside us. And sitting kind of behind that is this recognition that an organization, a business, it's a system. And in fact, it's a system of systems, a bit like a human body. human body's a system, but it's actually a system of systems: skeletal systems, nervous systems. Clearly, I'm not a doctor. What else?
Endocrine.
Endocrine. Yeah. And in medical science, the body has this thing called homeostasis. How do all the systems work together to maintain stability based on what's happening outside the body and what's happening inside the body? Make sense? Homeostasis. Right. That's so your ability. There's a system for managing systems in your body, and organizations that achieved more by doing less were actually able to respond to what was going on outside of them and inside them really quickly and easily. And that's really healthy. When the temperature changes outside, you need to adapt quickly. And so this adaptation was a secret ingredient.
Yep.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, so
more.
awareness, number one, awareness.
Yeah, I should speed up. Clarity.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's not rocket science, but if your team and teams don't have clarity of vision or clarity of purpose, well, where are they going? What are they doing? If they don't have clarity of strategy, well, do we know how we're differentiated and what gives us advantage? If we don't have clarity of business model, do we really know what drives value commercially? You get my drift. So clarity is actually the art of asking the right questions. And the next one, which is alignment, so number three, alignment is like the hand in hand to clarity. Clarity is about asking the right questions. Alignment is actually about agreeing the right answers. And and if you don't agree, well then, argue gracefully to develop the right answers. That is what creates the alignment. So these organizations had amazing ability to be aware of what's going on around them and respond proactively. They also had the clarity around who they were and what they did and what problem they solved, so that they could, in that awareness, either choose to respond or not. And that's really important. But they didn't just have that at one level of the organisation. They had that across the organisation. They had that in alignment, which meant people didn't get distracted easily. Yep. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It
also meant all layers of the organisation could actually hold each other accountable. So the CEO wasn't, independent of.
That's right. Yeah, it's that classic example of here we go. Here's cheesy quote number 2 for the day. I think it was the Zig Ziglar motivational quote from yesteryear, where he said, "It's not about the way the wind blows; it's about how you set your sails." And if the wind changes, well, great. The sailors know how to reset the sails. The helmsman or the captain actually doesn't need to tell them, because they know where the boat's going. They know that sail needs trim because that's where the boat's headed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's great.
So awareness, clarity, alignment. Fourthly, focus. If you have the awareness, and then if you have the clarity, and that clarity leads to alignment, it gives you that ability for focus. I remember sitting down with a CEO in the property industry, and great, really simple business model, really successful. One of my favourite clients to work with, and I just remember him being brutally clear about where they played, which swim lane they played in, which was extremely boring, extremely traditional, but extremely predictable.
Yeah. And
if they got outside of it, they got burnt. And every time they'd left that swim lane, that focus, something bad happened. And it was really easy to see. And so they had this innate focus to go, yeah, we know that's boring, but you know what? That's what we do, and we do it really well. And we're not going to get distracted off that. And it was extraordinarily effective for them.
Awesome.
Focus.
Focus.
What number are we up to?
It's got to be 6, doesn't it?
Awareness, clarity.
Awareness, clarity, alignment, focus.
All right, maturity.
5.
Maturity is number 5.
Yeah.
And this one's actually really important. These organisations that achieved remarkable results, they didn't just buy technology and they didn't just buy smart people or build people. They invested in two things. They invested in both skills and systems. And if you've worked with me in the past, if you're a client listening to this, you'd have heard me bang on this for years because this is one of the early things we discovered. We've been through a decade of phenomenal technological change. It was only 2007, 13 years ago, when Steve Jobs stood up and said, and here's one more thing, and held up an iPhone. And, that was only just after Facebook was founded and Twitter was founded. And, where we are today is just unbelievably different from where, you and I hanging out in our university, college years, just chalk and cheese. And organisations that build both skills and systems build maturity.
Great.
And so when you've got awareness, what's going on around you, and you can respond to that awareness effectively because of the clarity you have, and you can respond in all areas because of the alignment you have, and because you have focus, you can actually start building maturity. You're not chasing your tail. I think, in the past we've talked as an example about saplings around trees. You know how mature a tree is. When you chop it down, which hopefully we don't chop down too many, but you chop it down, and you see the growth rings, maturity rings, and every growing season doesn't exactly correspond with years, but every growing season you see a ring in that tree trunk. But if you look at that tree, and if you look at young trees, sometimes as they're young, what's growing up around them are saplings. And a good woodsman, a good gardener will go along, and if they have a tree growing in their garden, they're actually going to cut the saplings off. They're going to just get rid of those saplings because those saplings are sapping life and energy from the main trunk. Yeah. And if you see a tree that's kind of disformed at its base, it's because it's been unhealthy in its early years. It's had saplings deforming it. So the symbol here is exactly that. We build maturity in our core focus, in our core skills, and the organisations that did that, remarkable. So awareness, clarity, alignment, focus, maturity. What number are we at?
6. Curiosity.
6. Yeah, this now I love this because I think I'm naturally curious. But these organisations put onto this layer of maturity, this layer of curiosity. They held the mindset of an explorer. Let me be clear here. It didn't mean they were jumping off focus and but they were exploring new ways and better ways of constantly doing what they did better. Going back to that example of that CEO in the property industry, sticking to their somewhat boring traditional swim lane didn't mean they didn't do it better. They were getting better and better quarter by quarter, year by year.
Or even embracing new tools and technologies.
Exactly, yeah. Their investment in technology and build process and sales process and was phenomenal. But you know what? It was focused. It wasn't diverse in that sense. And so this curiosity, this mindset of the explorer, testing and measuring and growth hacking your way through the different levels of growth was fundamental. Yeah. Number 7 is this idea of rhythm. So, as I was telling that story, seeing the dude on the cleaning machine in Sydney Airport and Los Angeles Airport, one of the things that really speaks to your heart is the predictability of the rhythm. Yeah. What am I going to do today? I'm going to come in, I'm going to get my keys, I'm going to hop on my machine, and I'm going to drive it up and down this terminal. There's a rhythm. There's something calming to that. There's a reason why we have 4 seasons in the year. Summer, autumn, winter, spring. There's a rhythm to life. You don't have to look far to see the rhythms of life playing out in our natural state. And one of these principles we saw in remarkable work around us was this principle of rhythm. How do you use this rhythm? And this is the principle that that actually creates momentum, and ultimately, off that momentum, you get what we call leadership talk. And I think we've named this podcast Leadership Talk.
Leadership Talk. TORQUE.
Yeah.
Talk.
Yeah. Leadership Talk. Because when you practice that rhythm, something happens in the rhythm. And you'll discover in the Waymaker Way that every quarter is a rhythm, just like we have seasons in a year. And every time you practice that rhythm, you're getting better and better and better at doing less. Isn't that crazy? You're getting better and better and better at doing less. At the same time, you're achieving more. And it's torque. That's torque in your engine is that power you get. I'm one of those adventurous folk here in Australia that loves to get out in their four-wheel drive and go and see the countryside. And when you're on the beach or you're trying to get up a sand dune, or you need torque, you need power in the low range, in the low end, to move forward through hard things. And rhythm builds torque. As an engine, I'm no mechanic, but here's as much as I know about mechanics. When Henry Ford was inventing the engine, he needed power coming from an engine transferred to a drive shaft to turn wheels. And as the pistons are moving up and down, as you're turning, you're developing this torque, this power, which comes from leverage, from the way you can lever something. And so, if you're an engineer or mechanic listening to this, I apologise. I've probably just I can't
correct you, because if my car breaks down, that's probably my wife. That she knows way more about. She'd probably jump out.
But you get the point. You get the point. And rhythm, the cycle of turning awareness, clarity, alignment, focus, and building maturity, actually creates power inside the organisation, which is torque, which is deep-seated energy. I could talk on that for a lot more, but we're up to number 8.
We are. Accountability.
Number 8, accountability. Yeah, this 8th piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And look, to be honest, and I'm being a little bit honest in my get behind the scenes of Waymaker talk on our podcast. If I go back to moment 1, Sydney 2010 circa, and moment 2, Los Angeles 2016-ish, if I was to hold myself accountable to those 2 moments, clearly there were things I wasn't accountable enough on, that I wasn't focused enough on, that in reality I wouldn't repeat the same mistakes if I didn't own certain outcomes sooner, and if I didn't allow people around me to own those outcomes sooner. And so accountability, which is just owning the work you do and those you lead, brutal accountability. It means that, well, if your subordinate does it wrong, well, whose fault is it? It's yours. And it's yours for either A, training them improperly and not helping them and growing them, or B, if you have trained them properly and they're still not doing it right, it's your fault for not moving them on. At the end of the day, it's you. You own it. So if there's a problem in your business, you can go no further than you. If there's a problem in your life, so these 8 herbs and spices have this compounding effect. When you get awareness, clarity, alignment, focus, maturity, curiosity, rhythm, and accountability, organised and functioning inside your business, they have this unbelievable compounding effect. And somehow the magic happens and you achieve more by doing less. And so the Waymaker Way, the framework we have, the experience curve, puts all 8 of these principles into action really simply.
So in future episodes, we're going to talk about how you can, or how people have applied these principles through the Waymaker platform to see amazing results.
Yeah. The day I knew we were onto something is when I was working with a group of people, and we were doing this. We weren't doing this perfectly, and I remember the marketing manager, really good guy. I'd call him a friend. He's no longer at that company, so it's okay to talk about it. And we had been through maybe 3 or 4 cycles of doing this, which you'll see on the framework is every quarter, get the awareness, ask the right questions, get clarity, align your team, focus on what matters most. As you focus on what matters most, you're building maturity, you're applying curiosity, you're establishing rhythm, and you're holding people accountable to get the right things done. And we got to the end of the year, and he looked at me and goes, "Stu, man, like we've delivered like 6 or 7 major new initiatives, not talked about and sort of having delivered. They're in market. We're doing these things." He goes, "I've been at this company, been working with this group for years. It's the first time we've ever landed something, and we've landed 6 or 7 of them." And and that was when we had this moment, and that was a moment for me at that time, going, this stuff really does work. Well, I'd already sold it to them, so it better work. No. But there was also a moment of belief in that team. As their leader said that in a team setting, hey, you know what? We've actually achieved. Look what we've achieved, and we've done less work this year than what we had done in the previous years, and we've achieved more. And so the team had this moment of self-belief. And so it's the classic. Here's my classic, disclaimer. This won't happen overnight, but it will happen. Anything worthwhile takes a bit of time and effort. And so this process, it takes a few cycles to get through. There'll come a moment in 2 or 3 cycles of working through the curve each quarter that suddenly you step back and you go, where did that come from? What happened? How did we do that? And we have that. We have applied Waymaker principles to build Waymaker.
Awesome.
Whilst the world has been shut up and we've all been on Zoom trying to talk to each other and work together, we've had those moments ourselves. And so that's why we're kind of really excited right now to start to open the door officially and say, welcome to Waymaker.
Awesome. Stu, I need to wrap up our first 25-minute podcast after 43 minutes.
I promise we'll do better next time.
But it's just awesome to kind of hear the big why and the big what behind Waymaker. And look, if you're not a Waymaker, if you're not part of the Waymaker journey already, you can actually jump on waymaker.io and start a free trial. Yeah. And then if you are a Waymaker, if you're someone that's already, jumped on board, then, firstly, we'd love you to subscribe to this podcast, because this is actually where we go behind the scenes and, not just on the Waymaker platform, but we'll talk about how to achieve more by doing less. Yeah.
Because we're inherently lazy.
So, Stu, it's been awesome to chat to you, and I'm looking forward to our next chat as we talk more about how to achieve more by doing less.